Let's be real, when you have a chronic condition, whether it's chronic illness, chronic anxiety, or other chronic symptoms, there are plenty of things in life that you miss out on. Your world shrinks and gets a lot smaller, and there are plenty of things that you want to do, like eat a certain food, or get out of bed, or go for a walk, or drive a car, or take a shower. But unfortunately, your body reacts in very strong ways, and it makes you feel like you're doomed. And you might be wondering, how am I ever going to get my life back on track? How am I going to begin to do these things if every time that I try to do them, my symptoms flare? Maybe you want to add a new food back in, but the second it touches your plate, you're already scanning your body for that tight throat or racing heart or hives or however it is that you react. Maybe you want to exercise, but putting on your running shoes is enough for your brain to go into full panic mode and send the danger alarms. Maybe it's the simple things that so many people take for granted, like taking a shower, going for a drive or a walk, or sitting outside in the sun or socializing. Your brain has learned what it expects to happen next. And sometimes it starts producing that threat response before that activity that you want to do so desperately has even actually begun. So today I'm going to teach you a powerful tool to start to train your brain to be able to dive back into these things again bit by bit, and it's completely safe. The tool that I'm going to teach you today is called mental rehearsal. I'm going to explain to you why this tool actually affects the nervous system and show you exactly how it can be applied to chronic symptoms. And then I'm going to guide you through a short mental rehearsal that you can practice on an activity or something that does signal those threat alarms for you that you want to get back into your life. And I promise you, this isn't woo-woo, this isn't full of shit, this isn't imagine yourself filled with joy running through a field of flowers and butterflies are dancing around and everything's awesome. Although after everything you've been through, wouldn't that be fucking wonderful? Alright, so here's what mental rehearsal actually is. So mental rehearsal is the intentional practice of imagining yourself doing a certain thing before you actually do it. Sounds simple, right? Athletes have actually used this for decades, and it's been widely studied to show that the likelihood of success is much higher when you use mental rehearsal. A gymnast might mentally perform a routine before competing. A musician may practice a performance in their mind. Someone recovering from an injury or a stroke may mentally rehearse movement as part of their rehabilitation. But mental rehearsal is not only helpful for physical performance. It can also help us work with activities, environments, sensations, and situations that the brain has learned to associate with danger. This matters because your nervous system does not enter every situation as a blank slate. It uses your previous experiences to predict what is going to happen next. So imagine that every time you've gone grocery shopping recently, you became dizzy. Eventually, your brain starts connecting that grocery shopping equals dizziness. The bright light equals dizziness. Standing in line equals dizziness. Even thinking about grocery shopping can start to produce those sensations. That does not mean that you're imagining your symptoms. They are very real. They are there. It means that your brain and body have learned a pattern. Your nervous system is just trying to protect you based on the evidence that it believes that it has. And this applies to all kinds of things. If you were hit with a virus that then caused extreme fatigue, for a lot of people with chronic illness, that fatigue never goes away. Or if you tried a food once and you suddenly burst with anxiety or hives or a migraine, that gets logged into your system. If we react to those situations with a sense of fear or danger, the brain remembers that, it logs it, and it might repeat it next time. And then the next time. And every time it happens becomes more evidence to the brain and body that this certain activity, this certain food, this certain smell, this certain sensation, this certain exercise equals danger. Now, for those skeptical Sallys out there, definitely been there. Here's the science behind why mental rehearsal actually works. When you imagine seeing, feeling, performing something, your brain actually activates the same networks that activate when you're actually experiencing that thing. Your brain simulates parts of that experience. It is essentially running a preview. Have you ever caught yourself in a daydream and you're imagining a worst case scenario, like something truly tragic, and then all of a sudden you get a wave of anxiety or adrenaline? That is mental rehearsal. Your body is rehearsing what it would do, how it would feel if it was in that actual situation. Mental imagery involves the visual areas of the brain, motor planning networks, emotional networks, memory systems, and the areas involved in processing those internal bodily sensations. Now, this doesn't mean that your entire brain literally cannot tell the difference between what you imagine versus what is real, but there is a part of your brain that doesn't. Obviously, the conscious part of your brain knows when you are imagining, but imagination can still create real physical and emotional responses. Let's practice this together for a second using a short analogy. I want you, if you're able to, if you're not driving, to simply just close your eyes just for a minute. Now imagine that you're in a beautiful kitchen. It can be the kitchen of your dreams. Look around that kitchen, see what you see, feel what you feel. Maybe if you have trouble actually visualizing things, what would your feet feel like on the floor of that kitchen? Would it feel cold, cool to the touch? What kind of smells might be in this kitchen? And I want you to pretend that on the center of the table in that kitchen is this big bowl of beautiful, juicy lemons. Now imagine that you walk up to that bowl, you take one of those lemons, you slice it in half slowly, watching those juices kind of ooze out. And then you slice it one more time until you make this beautiful lemon wedge. You can smell that citrus scent. And now you're going to take that lemon wedge, put it up to your lips, and take a big bite into the lemon. Okay, open your eyes and let me know in the comments, did you get a sense of sourness, of thirst? Did you start salivating? What happened when you really imagined biting into that lemon? That's an example. There is obviously no lemon here, but your body can respond to what you imagine. Now, if that didn't work for you, don't panic. That was a very brief and fast imagination exercise. But for some of you, that is going to help give you an idea of how this mental rehearsal does affect your brain and body. Now think about the images that we unconsciously rehearse all the time, especially when we're scared of our symptoms. You imagine entering the store and becoming dizzy. You think, what if? You imagine eating the food and reacting. You imagine trying to exercise and crashing afterwards. You imagine driving and suddenly feeling trapped or brain fog. That is also mental rehearsal, but you're just rehearsing the outcome of fear. And we don't consciously choose to do this. It's just our nervous system and our brain trying to protect us by preparing us for those worst case scenarios. Every time that your nervous system and brain predict vividly that outcome, that worst case scenario, it becomes easier for it to activate that protective pattern the next time. So intentional mental rehearsal actually gives us the chance to show it a new experience, to practice a new pattern. And not necessarily a perfect experience, not necessarily a symptom-free experience, but a more flexible experience where maybe it's not as bad as it used to be. One in which you have choice, support, and agency, and the ability to respond differently. Let's talk briefly about what mental rehearsal is not, because this is just as important as what it is. Mental rehearsal is not positive thinking. It's not lying to yourself. It's not repeating, I'm completely safe, I'm completely safe, I'm completely safe, while another part of your brain is shouting,
You lying bitch, we're absolutely gonna die in Costco.
You do not need to visualize the activity going perfectly. You do not need to force yourself to feel calm. And you do not need to picture yourself doing something that is so far beyond your current capacity that your nervous system immediately rejects it. For example, if you've been bedbound, mentally rehearsing a 10-kilometer hike or running a marathon, probably will not create a believable sense of safety. It may simply give your brain a very detailed preview of hell. The imagined step needs to be small enough that your system can engage with it without becoming completely overwhelmed. So we do this titrated, just like we would if we were actually doing the activity. Now, please note that mental rehearsal also does not replace medical assessment. You can support your nervous system while also taking physical illness seriously. And mental rehearsal should not be used for something like convincing yourself to eat something that previously has put you into anaphylactic shock, or to push through something like chest pain or fainting episodes. The goal is not to bulldoze your body. The goal is to gently work with that learned layer of fear that developed around those experiences. Let me give you a couple of common examples that you can apply to your condition. So for a lot of people, they have intolerance to foods. There are so many people in the chronic illness world, especially with histamine intolerance or MCAS, that their food list really shrinks down, sometimes to only 2 foods. So you may have found that you started reacting to all these foods. When you eat them, you developed nausea or dizziness or a migraine or an upset stomach or a bunch of stuff all at once that just feels completely horrible and puts you into a flare. Now, whenever you even consider eating that again, your brain begins practicing that reaction. So a mental rehearsal for this might not begin with you picturing eating the food at all. It might actually begin with you picturing the food on the table in front of you, and that's it. Or smelling the food, or seeing somebody else eat it. And then you imagine remaining in the room with it while your feet are planted, grounded on the floor. You feel your body there. You imagine your body producing a small amount of discomfort. And instead of immediately panicking, checking, running away, you actually picture yourself saying, okay, my brain remembers this food and it makes sense that my body is responding. I am here and I am allowed to move slowly. You might rehearse actually placing the food on the plate, and that might be the entire practice for a while. On another day, you might imagine putting the food on a fork and holding it up to your mouth, but not biting it, just holding it there for a few seconds. And eventually, when medically appropriate, you might imagine yourself actually trying a little bit of that food and becoming curious about what responses come up. Now, with this, allowing is a huge practice. So if you don't know what allowing is, please refer to my previous videos, especially the one right before this, so you can start to practice allowing symptoms and sensations before mentally rehearsing. Another example is with chronic fatigue or exercise intolerance. Maybe walking, stretching, even sitting up or walking up the stairs or taking a shower has caused intense fatigue and pain and dizziness or a worsening of symptoms. And of course, your brain is gonna remember that. It doesn't want to feel that way. Who would? So with mental rehearsal in this case, you do not picture yourself smashing out a 45-minute workout routine. You could begin by imagining yourself simply sitting up. Or if you want to go for a walk, simply putting on your shoes. Or imagine yourself taking a couple slow steps. Or going to the bathroom and turning the shower on. Just watching the shower. And then you imagine what sensations might come up. And instead of panicking about them, you just allow them to be there just for a few seconds. And then you stop. You see, the biggest mistake people make when using mental rehearsal is rehearsing only the perfect outcome. This doesn't work because then when we try it in real life and a sensation comes up, we immediately think, holy shit, this is not working. Or it causes us to do what we've done in the past and start freaking out. Just remember, a sensation is information and not necessarily danger. Discomfort does not equal danger. When those sensations come up, you can pause. You can choose to stay with it, or you can choose to stop. You have the power. This new pathway that we're building in the brain is not complete denial. It's not saying, I'm going to be symptom-free from now on forever. The new pathway we're creating is, I can experience this sensation without entering that same fear loop. That is a much more believable and useful rehearsal. Okay, let's try a short practice together. Now, as a reminder, make sure you're not driving while you do this. You can be in a calm, quiet environment. And when you feel ready, either sit or lie down. And if it helps, close your eyes. I want you to choose one activity that your nervous system currently finds challenging or difficult. But in this practice, I want you to choose something that is either mildly or moderately activating, not severe. Maybe your activity is something like going outside or trying a certain food or walking to the end of your driveway or taking a shower or entering a store or going for a drive. First, begin by noticing where you are right now. Feel the support beneath your body, whatever's holding you, the bed or the couch or the chair. Feel that support. Feel the weight of your body there. Know that there is nothing you need to force here today. You can just allow whatever is to be. Now begin picturing the very beginning of the activity. See where you would be. Notice what might be around you. What might you hear? What might you smell? What position is your body in? Is there anybody with you or are you alone? And begin by imagining yourself moving through only the first small step. Maybe you are picking up the food or putting on your shoes or walking toward the bathroom. Just let that image be simple. Now notice whether your body starts to respond in any way. Become curious. Maybe there's tension or a change in your breathing or a sensation in your stomach or a little bit of fear. Or maybe you feel almost nothing. Whatever happens is allowed to be part of the practice. It's okay. Now imagine yourself noticing that response without immediately trying to eliminate it. You might even quietly say to yourself, my body's trying to protect me. And that's okay. And now imagine yourself moving forward one tiny step further. Notice if anything else comes up and let it be there. It's okay to be there. You're safe. You're not here to prove anything. You are giving your brain a new piece of information. See yourself responding to any sensations or symptoms that come up with support instead of alarm. You can continue, you can slow down, or you can stop. You are not trapped. The choice is yours. Picture yourself completing that one small step, and then imagine yourself returning to where you began. You do not need to assess whether you did it perfectly. Simply notice that, hey, I just allowed my brain to practice something new. And when you're ready, you can bring your attention back to the room, open your eyes and look around you and just kind of notice the space around you. If it feels good, you can stretch or take a deep breath or move however feels right. And then let the practice end there. Now, some people might find this challenging. Some people may find it almost too simple. But either way, this works. You can do exercises like this for 2 to 5 minutes at a time. You do not need a 30-minute visualization. It's not necessary. Choose one tiny scene and repeat it regularly. And once that scene becomes familiar, you can gradually add another step. And then, when appropriate, you can pair that mental rehearsal with a real-life experience. Because ultimately, the brain will need those real experiences too. The goal is to make the real step feel a little bit more possible. And with time, this actually happens. Your subconscious learns, hey, we've done this activity multiple times and we were actually okay. Even if symptoms were there, we were still okay. And it becomes easier when you do that real life thing for the brain to jump into that mode of feeling safe with the activity. Your brain has probably been rehearsing fear or anxiety or frustration or a need to fix or figure out or danger for a really long time because it has been trying to protect you. And mental rehearsal gives you a way to become more intentional about what you practice. You are showing your brain that there are actually more possible outcomes than the one that it has been experiencing. You begin creating new evidence, one small experience at a time. Please let me know in the comments if you found this helpful or you have any questions about it, because I read every single comment. And if you would like your own custom mental rehearsal practice made for you, I do that for people. It can be created specifically for you, tailored to your activity that you're fearing or nervous about, or that has flared you in the past. So if that's something you're interested in, you can order one through the pinned comment below. And if you want deeper support with nervous system regulation, chronic symptoms, fear avoidance, and gradually rebuilding your life so that you can feel better, you can also find the links for my one-to-one work and Brain Body Reclaim program below as well. Remember, start small, because your nervous system doesn't need a dramatic performance. It needs new evidence that it can actually believe. And by the way, I believe in you, because I know that if this helped me, if I can heal, so can you.